Smith, who's the executive director at Comic-Con Museum that I talked about, and Tom Waltz, who is officially the creative development senior editor at IDW, but also is a writer of many comics, including Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So we'll give you all a chance to donate. Do we have Colleen?
Yes, please.
All right, has everybody who wanted to donated? Raise their hands. All right. You can, I tell you what, if you want to donate at the end, you can do that as well. In addition to texting, I think the folks from Traveling Stories also have it set up so that you can actually use your credit card. So let's do that. So, okay, enough of me talking. So we have these amazing panelists here. I'm not typically a panel moderator, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit. But David, I think, why don't we start with you? And what are the goals for 2018? And the question that is on everybody's mind is, what is the long-term future of Comic-Con in San Diego?
I think we're fans ourselves, so we always try to create the type of show that we want to attend. So each year is different. I like to say Comic-Con's like a river. The banks may always be the same, but the waters are changing. I know that sounds like a cheesy statement, but it really is true. Anybody who's come to Comic-Con knows that we have an incredible exhibit floor, incredible programming, and I think we actually, when we factor in all the different programs that we have, I think we have actually over 2,000 hours of programming. And sometimes we can't accommodate all the requests that we get. With regards to staying in San Diego, we'd love to see San Diego. We made a big point. We were born here. We'd love to stay here. But we have to do what's best for the fans and attendees. If we ran out of space at the convention center back in 2010. Luckily, we've been able to work with local hotels and the city and municipalities to use park space. So you'll see that we've kind of expanded out of the convention center a bit. And hotel room rates are always a challenge also. So we can, if the stars align, we can make all those things work. If we get an expanded convention center, then we'll be here for very long.
Right. I know, I'm sure I speak for every people here for a long time. So it's much easier for my company to do in San Diego.
Okay, Gil, so let's move to you. So I think one of the things we're curious about is Comic-Con the biggest event of the year? And if not, what is?
It's the biggest event of the year by people, right? By far. People always, we talk about how big the convention center is and how full it is, and we are full year round. But in terms of the raw number of people in the building, Comic-Con is the biggest by far. The next one is the Auto Show at 110,000. And then it drops way down into the 30,000s in terms of the number of people in the building. In terms of the amount of floor space we use, we've got other conventions that use a lot of floor space. By the way, your slide had 460,000 square feet. We're 1 million square feet. If you include meeting rooms, the floor is about 525 by itself, 90,000 in the sale pavilion, and another about 500,000.
Is that right?
And so I'll ditch your slide.
All right.
But yeah, by far the biggest event. In terms of economic impact, you sort of talked about it. Economic impact of Comic-Con on the city of San Diego by itself is about 140 million. And we, as a convention center, do 1.2 billion a year in economic impact. So it's about 10%, a little over 10% by itself, one event in terms of what's going on in the city. So yeah, biggest event. And for our staff and the number of people we hire, we have most people in the building during that event.
Maybe you could also tell us a little bit about the ballot measure.
Sure, ask the question about the ballot measure. So in November, you'll hopefully see a ballot measure in the city of San Diego about expanding the convention center. That's our economic impact numbers and everything we do as a center at Comic-Con. And these are fun facts. We have some brochures. We'll have little fun fact pamphlets that we'll hand out that will give you some, real interesting stuff like that we go through somewhere around 80 gallons of nacho cheese a day during Comic-Con. Fun stuff, right? 18,000 hot dogs, exciting stuff like that. I always ask my team, what else you got? Just keep giving me fun facts. But on the expansion, in November, the voters of San Diego will decide whether or not they want to expand the convention center. It is an initiative for a tax increase for the tax on tourists, essentially, which is the tax that people pay at the room. It'll put San Diego right in the sort of sweet spot of where big cities are in terms of their tax rate. Right now, we're kind of low. And it will allow us to add essentially 40% space to the entire center. And it's pretty cool. You get essentially another about 250,000 square feet of space on the exhibit floor by itself. So that's almost 40% more space just on the exhibit floor. We'll get another 80,000 square foot ballroom, a lot more meeting rooms, and then one of my favorite things is there's going to be a 5-acre park on the roof. And people are like, oh, that's a park. It's a 5-acre park on the roof. And there'll be an event space that can seat 4,000 people for concerts. So it's really an amazing opportunity for the people of San Diego, and we're hoping that, at least I'm hoping that they'll approve it and get us going for the expansion. So that. If everything goes well, it's going to probably require 2/3 of the citizens to approve it. If that goes well, then we'll start moving pretty quickly on it.
So I think if you want Comic-Con to stay in San Diego, probably trying to get this on the ballot and a yes vote would be a good thing for all of us. Okay, so Rob, I'm curious about how Comic-Con impacts MTS. And I also hear that you have space that you rent out, which is, I was surprised by. I'm curious to hear about that as well.
Well, usually when I talk about public transportation, when I talk about buses and trolleys, people's eyes start to glaze over and they look at something else. So I thought I'd tell you the real reason I'm here. So I was at this establishment, and a couple of seats away from me was this woman who ordered a bunch of appetizers. Now, I think she was planning on taking those home with her, but I told her, you've got enough food there for me too, And she was very gracious and started sharing her food with me. And that woman turned out to be Emily. And so Emily and I kind of hit it off, and there's a great connection between traveling stories and MTS trolleys and buses. And one of these days we're going to do a partnership, but I have a lot of respect for what Emily does, and she does great work. So thank you for all being here, and hopefully you spend a lot of money. So back to transportation. So we tell stories on our trolleys primarily every time Comic-Con rolls around. What's so great about Comic-Con is that it's exploded outside the realm of the convention center. I mean, there's huge graphics on the buildings and just the excitement of downtown. Well, some of that excitement has spilled over onto our system. So the impacts to us are great. I mean, we generate 365,000 more rides on those 4 days than we would on a light 4 days the previous week. I mean, we're generating a lot of revenue. I think what's more fun about that is that we are wrapping 44 trolleys this year. So
With the Winona Earp wrap.
yeah, with the Winona Earp wrap, and that's hard to say. But ABC, Turner, Fox, they're spending a lot of money to advance their products on our property. So that's a big impact. It takes 8 hours to wrap one of our trolleys, and so you've got to coordinate that with 44 different ones. We could only do 2 a night, so we've got to start months in advance. But our crew really does take a lot of pride in the work that goes into those, and we put these beautiful graphics out there. I think it really adds a lot to the show. They're going by the convention center every 3 minutes now because we beef up our service, we beef up security, which is a big impact to us. Keeping people safe is really important. If you've been at the Gaslamp Quarter station, there's just a million people down there. We've got to keep them off the tracks, we've got to keep the service rolling. So it's a really exciting time, I think, for all of our employees. It's a challenge, but they rise to the occasion. They just love their work. We also own that property right there at the foot of Gaslamp, right by the Tin Fish, that big plaza there. We own about 2/3 of that property. The other third is owned by the city of San Diego, and the city of San Diego kind of let us kind of manage that property and rent it. We learned some lessons early while working with Comic-Con, but now NBC kind of has the first right of refusal to activate that property. But again, it's just an exciting place to be. And we coordinate well with it. Goes really smoothly now. We've got it all down. So You know, a few days in advance of the show, NBC is going to roll out their crews and build this incredible activation there. So I don't think there's any more exciting time in San Diego for all of us who love Comic-Con, and particularly for, you know, public transportation. We're running buses and trolleys, and that's an important thing. But when Comic-Con rolls around, we have a lot of fun doing it. So,
Thank you. Okay, so Colleen, as I mentioned in the presentation, my wife and I and son have stayed at the Omni a lot, so very familiar with the hotel. And it's just as a sort of, I guess, consumer or somebody stays there, it's amazing to me just to see how the hotel and the staff respond, always very professional. My favorite thing, this is not my question for you though, is there's a guy in the restaurant who dresses up as Superman and runs around as Superman, which is amazing. I mean, everybody like responds to it. It's like super cool to see the staff respond to the show in that big way. So I'm a little curious to hear from your perspective, is this the biggest show of the year? What's it mean to the Omni? I know you're sort of the home of the Padres as well, so I'm just kind of curious, how does it compare to some of those other events?
Thank you for your business. We welcome you back anytime. I would say that it is definitely the biggest annual show, right? As Gil mentioned, there's other conventions that come from town at various times, but they're not the every July show that we come to count on. And yes, you're absolutely right. The staff, we had a meeting today, as a matter of fact, we do a lot of prep, right? As you can imagine, there's a lot involved. But the excitement that is around these dates and these events that happen in the hotel and outside of the hotel, we do have a great advantage of where we are located, right across from the convention center. And certainly our partners in the studios take great advantage of trying to market every inch that they possibly can through the approval of Comic-Con. And we welcome it, we love it. But I think by far it's the biggest 4 days that we have, consecutively by far. I think one of the earlier questions I was thinking you might have is, you know, where does that come from? Is it primarily group revenue or is it more events? And it really is it's a balance. Primarily rooms, yes, but the events have grown so much, and the attendance, and they come to look for us as they know we've been at home to Game of Thrones for so long. Not this year, a little hiatus, but they'll hopefully come back. But there's a lot of new things to come, and we embrace it. And I think I've had senior level folks on the team come to work. I don't recognize in their costume. It was the Queen of Hearts last year. She got a ton of play on the news and everywhere. It was my director of finance. So like that's kind of how deep this goes. So we're in true Comic-Con countdown in Henry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, I'll talk loud. So Adam is I know him as the guy who runs the museum, but he's the executive director of the Comic-Con Museum, which I told you I'm very excited about. So let's hear your vision, and I know the question that I'm going to sort of preempt is, when's it going to open?
All right. Thank you, Ted. Before I talk about the vision for the Comic-Con Museum, I want to say Ted did an awesome job there with his presentation. One of the principles that we're basing the Comic-Con Museum on is the idea that the fans are going to be the curators of our museum. Most museums are in the kind of idea that they hire curators that decide what's important and decide what stories we want to tell and then present those to the audience that comes to visit. We want to build our museum on the idea that, like Comic-Con has done for the last 48 years, it is a very fan-driven event, and we want this to be a fan-driven museum. So we're actually going to do our public launch for the museum at Comic-Con in 3 weeks' time. I guess in exactly 3 weeks' time, it will be our first public appearance. And the sort of catchphrase for what we want to do is called curated by you. So we wanted to send that message to the fans that you are a big part of this. And Ted, I was sitting in the back of the room as you presented tonight, and what you did was an absolute validation of that idea. The history that you gave of comics in this town and the history of Comic-Con. I don't know if you know this, you are a natural born curator. I have worked in museums for 30 years my whole life, and you got it.
But I got the info wrong on the convention center.
What?
I need a fact check.
So thank you for that. We've got 68,000 square feet in the Hall of Champions building in Balboa Park. The convention center's got 1 million square feet. But what we've got, the advantage we've got is time. We've got 365 days a year to bottle the magic of Comic-Con and present that to the visitors in the Comic-Con Museum. So when people ask me to describe the vision of what we're going to do there, I start by talking about your expectations. Your expectations are conditioned by what you already know about Comic-Con. You know the event, you know the energy of it, all of the passion and the subject matter that gets covered by the event. And what we want to do at the Comic-Con Museum is kind of capture the magic of Comic-Con and present that to everyone all year round. And so the scope of the museum will be anything that you might see at Comic-Con, the event, you could expect to see at Comic-Con, the museum. As we develop the vision for what we want to do, one of the concepts we've come up with is that it's almost like we're building 3 museums in one space. So the first museum is the kind of museum that you imagine, that you're familiar with. It's a place you can come and visit all day long. Families will come, tourists will come, school parties will come. Usually open from 9 in the morning till 5 or 6 in the evening. An awesome place to come and view exhibits, get great experiences, have a lot of fun. So Museum 1 is that kind of museum, and we're definitely going to build one of those. One of the more unusual things we're going to do, though, is we will not close at 5 or 6 o'clock. Museum 2 begins in the evening and goes until midnight. So the nighttime museum is one that is probably a little bit more adult focused, a little bit more food and drink focused. This is a place where you will come and watch a movie, see a screening, hear a panel, engage in programming. So we will just stay open and have that second museum that allows fans to probably explore the depths of their passion. So again, 365 days a year, we'll have a lot to offer from that perspective. And then the third museum is the virtual museum. Comic-Con has over 1 million people in our database. And they don't all live in San Diego or even California. There are people literally from all around the world that love what we're all about. They come here once a year, but the rest of the year, we want to position ourselves as a home for their passion. And virtual programming, like delivering live programming through the internet and so on, is something that we want to do. So that's sort of like what you expect. As I've talked to various audiences in the city over the last few months, I've been here since October, so this is a relatively new project. The thing that people don't expect when I talk is we want to build this as a true educational institution for this city and for this community. So the kind of work that Emily is doing with Traveling Stories is exactly the kind of programming that we want to do that kind of stuff with the Comic-Con Museum too. So we want to build the opportunity for young people in particular to come and engage with popular culture and learn something. We think that the concept of character, giving kids the opportunity to create a character and take it on that hero's journey through storytelling is a really interesting opportunity for us educationally. There's lots of places we can go with that. So over time, we won't just build a fantastic visitor attraction that will enhance tourism and the economy of San Diego all year round. Hopefully this will be something that is a very deep organization, educational. Actually, no. As I talk to audiences around the city, not everyone knows that Comic-Con is a non-profit organization. It's been a 501c3 non-profit since 1977. And one of the things that we will be doing as we go through this journey of creating the museum and sustaining it is we will be becoming a fundraising organization. We actually just wrapped up today a big planning meeting where we finalized the concept plan and the budget for this project. to get us where we need to be, it's going to cost about $35 million to create the kind of museum, the kind of organization that everyone believes is possible. Comic-Con has been extremely generous and is covering about 1/3 of that cost. But the rest of it, we are going to have to go and fundraise for. So the answer to your question, Ted, is when's it going to open, is actually driven by our success with the fundraising. If everything goes to plan, what I would like to happen is that next year at Comic-Con 2019 is the 50th Comic-Con. So it's going to be a great time of celebration. And I would love to declare at that point that we've succeeded in our fundraising efforts. And we'll do a groundbreaking ceremony. And from that point, it will probably take about 18 months to do the construction and all of the things that need to be done in order to open a museum. So if we hit all our gates and all our fundraising targets, that will cause us to open in late 2020. And I know everybody wants it to happen now, but to do something really good, it does take time to think it through and do a great job of design and construction. So we're asking everyone to kind of bear with us on the journey, and over the next couple of years, you will be hearing fundraising messages from Comic-Con. We'll be during the event this year, we'll be inviting people to join us as members. Come to booth 1714 on the exhibit floor, and you'll be able to sign up as one of our charter members of the program. We're basically looking for people to help us spread the word and build an excitement about what we hope to build.
Great, thank you. I know I'll be a member. So, all right. So Tom and I work together. Tom is an editor at IDW and also the senior writer at IDW, and is the creator, or not the creator. Probably wish you were the creator, but
I'm the step creator.
Yeah, the step creator. Yeah, the current writer of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I'm curious, Tom. I mentioned a little bit like what the experience is from my perspective, seeing how you interact with fans. But what's your own take on that? What's that experience like being in Comic-Con, and I guess being such a part of San Diego? What's that mean?
Well, first of all, I apologize because I have to follow a guy with the coolest accent. And I'm just some guy from like Detroit. Sorry. I'm that Midwestern twang going all the way. You know what, it's funny. Actually, San Diego, I mean, you talk about San Diego and not about the convention, but San Diego's influence on comics. I think in general, I don't know if there's an advantage living in San Diego in general for comics, and I say that because Ted mentioned I'm an editor. One of the books I've been editing as long as I've been writing Turtles, I've been editing our Ghostbusters comic. And our Ghostbusters team, like our Turtles team, has been very consistent. And our writer is actually from Brainerd, Minnesota. And so what's funny, so he's so far out in Minnesota, this is where they filmed the movie Fargo, that when I call him in the winter, which is like, I think 10 months out of the year in Minnesota, he'll tell me that we had to have a quick phone call because he can't get a signal in his house. And he has to go outside, but it can last 10 minutes before the frost bite starts setting. And then our colorist for that book lives in Mexico City, and he World Cup crazy this week, I'll tell you. And then our artist, our longtime artist, is from Vancouver, Canada. So comics definitely, especially in this digital age, has become this international operation really, and it's easy to work with teams like that because a lot of the work is done digitally. It can be transferred digitally. We're not talking about shipping, big packages full of artwork that goes from the penciler to the inker. It's all done by FTP. Specifically for me, San Diego was an advantage. Like I said, I came from Michigan. I was in the Marines for years, and I worked in defense. I worked at companies here in town called Cubic Defense Systems for a long time. And then I worked at a company that was called SAIC, which was a big defense company here. But I've always wanted to write. Ted mentioned Lord of the Rings. The reason I want to write, and this kind of dovetails into the whole traveling stories mission, is my teacher in 5th grade, Mr. Bowman, whom I still remember like it was yesterday, read The Hobbit to our class. And the way he read the book blew my mind. And it was at that moment in 5th grade I knew I want to do and create things that made me feel like that. I wanted to make other people feel like I felt after he read that book. So how do we get that word license? But specifically, and I'm gonna, at the risk of brown-nosing, because Ted is my big boss, comics in San Diego have been an advantage for me because it's a very tight community. So within San Diego, there's multiple stores, but there's one big publisher, a giant publisher now, IDW, and I say giant because when I first met Ted, I was had just finished kind of self-publishing my own creator-owned comic book, which was called Children of the Grave, and it was this military kind of horror drama that I teamed up with a guy from Ventura, he's my artist, and we put that together and self-published it. And at the time with Diamond, as long as you could get any kind of orders, we got like 500 per issue, they would distribute it. That's changed since then. This is like 2004 or 2005. And there's a thing every year called Free Comic Book Day. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, where the stores will work in accordance with publishers to give free comics that publishers put together and distribute to the retailers, to the public, to get them into the stores. So they get these free comics from the different publishers, and hopefully by coming in there, they become new fans. They'll see other comics and they'll want to come back for more. Ted was in there, 2005-ish, it had to be, 2005 or 6, in Kamikaze on Claremont Mesa Boulevard, and IDW was small at that time, and I just happened to walk in, and Robert Scott, who's a huge retailer in the business and definitely big in San Diego, said, "Hey Ted, this is Tom Waltz. He writes that Children of the Grave book that you've seen." And Ted said, "You know what? I really like that. Nice to meet you. Is anybody going to collect that? Meaning, is anybody going to take those individual issues and put them into one collected edition?" And I said, "No, I had to spend all my tax returns just to get it published. So I think we're done." And he said, "We'd like to collect that." And so through that process, I said, of course I said yes. So I would start to go to IDW offices, and this is where we have to give Ted credit for what's happened. When you want to talk about small businesses and the success of small businesses, and somebody who can take something that's literally from nothing to something that's massive. I've been there almost from the start. So I came in right after they were just got the Transformers license. They were on Marina Boulevard. I think it was called Rosewater offices. They had that office he showed there was just a little smaller than what they had when I started. Maybe 7 employees. There was this bathroom, it was a community bathroom, I always joke about this, in this building at the IDW offices, where you actually had a key with, I think it had some big stick on it. It was like when you had to go to the bathroom in high school, and they didn't want you to lose the key. And it was this community bathroom that after I went, I thought I might need a tetanus shot. And that was the offices when I started, but you could already tell something was happening. And my favorite memory of Ted, I don't know if you remember this, when I first started there, we were both passionate people, and I remember we had this heated argument in one of our first meetings, and everybody was shocked, and they thought, "You're done, dude. You're done with somebody." And when I walked out of that meeting, I said, "I like him." And I think he said, "I like him too." We've gotten along ever since, so we got it out of the way right away. But anyway, so we started with my creator-owned book, and so it was kind of one of those things where at the time the company was starting out, they were looking for new properties. They had the new Transformers license, but wasn't sure what was going to happen with it. And you can see from like a seed into the blossoms that Ted had a vision, and even though it wasn't there yet, you knew it was going to get there. So we had the book published. Long story short, I got to know everybody at the office, and over time, I transitioned from the freelance guy that they published the book for to kind of a part-time freelance editor helping them out to the position I have today. And then along that way, I've had the opportunities to write other books. But what I've seen is within San Diego, Ted's built this business, this comic book business, and I think there is an advantage for the business overall being in San Diego, because you feel like at this point, and even more so pretty soon I believe, that this is kind of the mecca for comic books. So we have that advantage that if a comic book company can't succeed in San Diego, maybe it's not going to succeed anywhere else. And Ted took advantage of the support of the community, of the easy access to the convention, so we can get out there and get in front of people. And that's where I think the convention is an advantage to a creator like me, where you can sit down with fans and interact with them, because again, a lot of it's done online, a lot of it's done from a distance. And you know what, and I'll say this, in this year especially, what you find online is a lot of anger. A lot of people want to fight. So it's easy for fans to argue, and they've all got opinions on one side or the other. Then they get in front of you. They can't call themselves, Wolverine Nuts number 98.com or whatever they call themselves online. Now they're Billy or Jim or Susie or Mary, and they're right in front of you. And guess what? We're not this evil propaganda machine. I'm just a guy that really likes stories. I want to tell stories. I hope you like some of them. Maybe some of them don't resonate with you. But ultimately, we all have the same goal: is we want fun stories that we can all relate to, fun characters that we can relate to. And I think the convention's provide that access, not only for the fans to the creators, but the creators to the fans, so that they can see that this isn't, I put my pants on one leg at a time. Just like I had a drill instructor, I always remember this. The drill instructor told me in the Marines, we were getting inspected by these generals were coming through for some inspection, and everybody's freaking out. And he said, that general puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. So relax. And I think that when fans see that we're not these glamorous stars, we're just guys and girls that get online, get on computers, and write these stories and put them out to the world and hope people like them, then they feel that, I think what I feel is there's a relationship there. And then we start to see those barriers come down and that anger subside, and then people start to communicate and they start to talk. And then it's easier to say, you know what, I like about your story in issue 25, I really like this, but I didn't really like this thing in issue 30. And it's not this big, angry debate. What it is productive debate. Because I can walk away from that and say, you know what, maybe that person's right. I can kind of adjust my storyline a little bit. And then there's other times, I just told Ted, I was in Palm Springs last weekend for a convention, and it was a small convention, and somebody came up to me that was a Turtles fan, and we've been writing Turtles now, gosh, it's been 7 years now, so I just finished writing issue 86. So we've been 86 monthly issues, and that's a lot of issues in a lot of months, and I tell my wife sometimes I'm not sure if my memories are my own or Michelangelo's, because I've done it for so long. But there's times as a writer you'll write something that to you is very important. That it could be the smallest line or 2 pages of just discussion between characters that for me is pivotal in my life and pivotal to me as a creator. But to the fan, you know, they're waiting for somebody to get punched in the nose a lot of times in comics. So you think, yeah, nobody's going to get this, but I need to get this out. This is something that's important to me. And a fan came up to me this last weekend, and instead of asking me about, you know, Leo's swords or Raphael's weapons or why is Raph so angry or is Mikey really a party dude, they wanted to talk about a storyline I had that dealt with Donatello. He was struggling with the idea of reincarnation because in our story, spoiler, our turtles are actually reincarnated from humans. And Donatello, if anybody knows the Turtles, is a science guy, right? So he's going to have a hard time with something like reincarnation. It just doesn't scientifically, he can't understand the science of it. And there's a robot of all things, in Dimension X, this is comics, remember, Mr. the Fugitoid, who explains to him that, well, you accept teleportation, right? Teleportation, basically we break down, we destroy the body, we basically copy and paste it somewhere else, and it reforms in that other area. But somehow the soul, or the being, or the spirit finds its way there, and we can't explain it. We don't know how it works, but it works. And we take it on faith that it works. And so that was a big deal for me, because in our turtle story, we wanted to kind of capture both the science aspect of it and maybe this magical, spiritual aspect that is possibly science people just don't understand yet. And when I wrote that, I felt so good about it. I never heard anybody say anything about it, except for somebody told me it was horrifying that we would get copy and pasted. I did get an email about that. And this fan came to me and said that moment in the story changed his life. And he said, I never thought about faith before, but what you're talking about was you have to have faith sometimes that things work and we just can't explain it.